Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Lucid, and I'm joined by Ravzia.
Hello.
So I'm sure, as some of the our comment aficionados had pointed out in the last episode, we missed probably the most important thing of last turn, which was a big battle of Joman deciding to storm Arcoscephale.
Yep.
And Arcoscephale also having Valor Flames.
And a lot of summon.
A decent number of summons. You know, he's got some elementals here. He's got his god, a few mages. He put a bunch of gems on the mages I like. There's no point dying with gems in the bank. Even if you don't know what they're gonna do, just put them on them mages for your last ditch defense.
Yeah, a small water elemental is better than anything.
So these
And
guys have
Joman
mass protection.
Flies over the Valor Flames, which is very good when you actually have fire vulnerability.
These fire elementals should be pretty good though here. Oh, this guy's not doing a ton.
When you take so many hits,
Yeah.
even though they should be pretty good, they'll still go down too fast.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, they're getting blown up. I mean, these guys don't really have that many buffs. They have been hit by Strength of Giants, and they're really high damage weapons, I guess.
Protection. They have
mass protection.
Arrow Fend,
Yeah.
which helps protect against the flaming arrows. What few arrows are. Did Joman cast Rain?
Yeah.
So that's going to fatigue out the Pretender from, at least a little bit, the Pretender from Arco.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and he's getting, something you noticed, he fatigued out. I think that some of it is like he's getting the numbness effect from this Frostbrand, but it could be something else, and, you know, Rain could be contributing. I think there's a Earth Mage moving forward, too, that's gonna... Maybe, is it this guy? I think this guy's gonna start casting Shatter.
That's certainly not going to be something he enjoys. What kind of damage do Sylphs do?
They're basically air elementals that have Glamour instead of Trample.
They might be able to go through, too.
Yeah. Yeah. 10 shock resistance, they'd have to get pretty lucky, but they could.
Yeah. But anyway, he can't regenerate
his
points, so it's not looking too good for the statue.
Yeah, and there went Shattered.
Yeah, he got shattered twice. And somebody finally cast Weapons of Sharpness at the very end of the battle there. So.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it hit much.
Who knows
was terribly
who he
important. Yeah, I'm kind of curious now. It's probably like on these guys back here. Yeah, they've got Weapons of Sharpness. All the old men, they're like, all right, sharpen their weapons up.
Yeah, when they hit you with a dagger, it'll be an armor-piercing dagger.
All right, let's go to turn 55.
Yeah.
Here, Ravzia wanted to see if turn the recording back on to see the Arco position. So here's the battle report. We probably should have showed that too.
Not terrible losses for Joman. No. They did lose a little bit, but nothing.
No mages, just some Ashigaru. That's
it's like 70 militia.
Yeah.
Gold wise, so it's not a big.
And then this fort's popped.
Cracked, so
there's some Ryujin. They're probably gonna murder whatever's inside.
Yeah. Poor Arco.
Yeah, he fought to the end though, so props to him.
Yeah, that's what we want to see.
All right, and now we got turn 55. Oh my goodness. It looks like we get the final messages from Arco. Alas, my preparations were for naught. The knitting circle has fallen. The gifts of flight mass flight, rendered my Valor Flames near useless, and the rain severely limited what my god could do to counter the enemy army. The knitting circle is dead. Long live the knitting circle. They shall never grant a generic name to a prophet again. I'm sending my leftover wealth to other players. I gave each player other than Joman at least one ring of water breathing because I had those in anticipation of taking Joman's underwater forts, but that never had the opportunity to happen. I also gave what gems I had left to Bogarus and what blood slaves I had left accumulated to Ulm. Neither was a huge amount, but I also probably could have spent more in the defense effort. A note to improve on in the future. I suspect that this may arrive the turn I die. If that is the case, then it's been an honor entertaining you, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the game. Thank you for your time, Sergeant Flintlock. Yeah, I think he fought real well.
He did.
Fought
Made
to
a
the
few
bitter end.
mistakes, and he learned from them, hopefully. So that's always good.
Where's the Arco? Wait, where's Joman? I don't think I'm going to see any Arco flags.
Yep, there's the last fight. And there's not much left.
Yeah, just a few hoplites. Think we know how this goes.
Yep. The archer's probably good, okay.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be enough.
It's slingers, though.
Oh, slingers. It would have been better if they were.
Yeah. Kills two Master
Two
Shugenjas.
Shugenjas. I don't know how they died. I guess they don't really
slingers.
wear hats, do they? So.
Yeah.
And slingers did something after.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, I think for me, the story with Arco, I think he was right to intervene in the Jomanese war against Bogarus. You know, it was a little unfortunate that Agartha attacked him. And I think he managed a good ceasefire, like he, made a good deal with Joman when they both needed to peace out, even though their war was unsettled. And I think that even left part of the Arco cap circle to Joman. I might have pressed Joman for terms to get my cap circle back. But yeah, I think he did good diplomacy. I think the only real mistake he made was that Agartha was running around with huge piles of armies that didn't have any mage support. And I think like a more advanced Arco player, like somebody who's more comfortable with the nation, kind of knows what limits you can push it to. They probably would have done Foul Vapors traps on them, but they also probably would have been able to have two armies which could have killed these unsupported Agartha stacks.
And that severely limits where they can move to.
Right. It's really hard to anticipate the movement of an army when you only have one army that can fight it. But if you have two, it's so much easier to control where that army can go. So,
especially on a narrow front like that. He can almost cover both forward provinces.
Right.
And then just walk them up, kind of.
Yeah. And if you get yourself into a position where you only have, like the enemy is doom stacked and you only have one army, like you have to put everything together to fight that doom stack, you kind of have to get lucky. Like it's rough. It's a hard road to walk down because you're just kind of at their mercy. They can choose to be unpredictable, disengage, like not engage you, and you're chasing them with your whole mage corps. It feels horrible.
Yeah, it opens you up to like what Joman did here. A strong outside nation can then swoop back in and pressure you, and you don't have anything in position to deal with.
Right. So it's kind of the thing that, like, if Agartha, imagine I was playing Agartha, and I decided that the right way to play them was to not move mages out with my army, right? I'm just going to throw my troops at this player and run over them. But all my mages are back home researching. I'd be okay with having this army run around, raid land, not ever take major fights. I probably don't want to take the big fights because I don't have mage support, right? Not the case for Joman, right? Not for Joman, for Arco. They really need to because they're having to use mage support. But if I was playing Agartha and I did put my mages in, running around and going on like a joyride where you don't accomplish any major objectives with your entire mage corps is horrible. So it's like a lose-lose if they do that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Like you said, just fall behind in research.
Yeah. So, anyway. Yeah, it was cool. I had a lot of fun watching your various conflicts, and everybody, cheers to Arcoscephale.
Yep. Sergeant Flintlock, I believe.
Yep.
Thank you for playing.
Absolutely. Fought to the bitter end. May it be remembered. Good news from Ulm. I informed Joman that Abyssia was doing well in our war, and this might be a good time for him to attack, while Abyssia is still focused on me, and has not yet had time to utilize the strength they gained from conquered lands. Joman agreed to cancel their nap with Abyssia, causing Abyssia to sue for peace. I'll be getting most of my old stuff back. Oh, wow. and he will get some blood slaves, which he can use against Joman. Hopefully, they fight each other to another standstill. Wow. I'm going to now focus everything on Lemuria. I won't gain much from it, but the throne would be nice, and the dead must rest. Blood 6's turn, going to try to transition from a gold economy to a blood economy now that my lands are safer.
I can't imagine Abyssia actually giving up the fort that they took.
Yeah, I think there's two levels to this. One level is that Abyssia and Ulm working together against Lemuria and Joman, who are involved in other conflicts, makes a world of sense. Like Joman and Lemuria are the players in this game by far and away in the best position. So it makes a ton of sense for them to work together. The only thing is, Ulm was beaten so much to the brink of death that like his mage core is mostly dead. I think if you're Abyssia, you try to finish Ulm off. I think it's kind of to that point. But you're about to be in a 1v1 with Joman, so I can understand the hesitance.
That's the mages on an faction. Abyssia.
It's what?
It's not a very mobile faction.
Yeah.
So if you have your mages all the way up in Abyssia or Ulm's cap circle, it'll take them 4 or 5 turns to get back to fight Joman. Right?
Yeah.
Is he actually giving up the fort?
He's actually giving up the fort.
That's crazy.
I would never have negotiated that. I mean, it's a hard problem, though. I think what you said is right. Like, you might need the mages down here. You're about to be in a 1v1 with arguably position 1.
Yeah, if Ulm really pushes for it, maybe you give it up. If he's threatening you, saying, look, I'm just going to raid all these lands back anyway, and you can't stop me if you're fighting Joman.
I mean, honestly, that kind of makes sense. I think it actually is worth it to give it back to Ulm. I didn't think it was, but I'm just absorbing the position right now. If Ulm is truly going to go after Lemuria and help Calum and put all his energy on that, that is very good for the game state. Right? So him doing that, if you have to give him a fort to get him to go kill Lemuria while you deal with Joman, I think that's worth it. But I would probably have some condition that if he starts dying, you get very early vulture privileges or something like that.
Mm-hmm. I feel so bad for Abyssia here, actually. Because if you look at, they were so close to securing a lot of extra forts and lands that might not bring them up to Joman necessarily, but it would at least solidify them in a second place, I think.
Some of this I didn't puzzle out even as a observer, but like I think some of this you could have chessed out ahead of time, right? Like if the Joman war with Arco finished.
Yeah, I would expect them to go kill Boogers, I'm not gonna lie. If I'm in the Abyssia position. Yeah. It looks like a much better war target from the Abyssia position. I would think so anyway. Because even though I guess it's closer to the Joman cap to go after Abyssia, but you still have kind of an awkward choke point through that wasteland for their normal armies that are actually going to crack forts. Yeah. So I would always, and Boogers is so much closer to the armies that they just use to wipe out Arco, right? Why not just march those south and take all that?
Yeah, I think you're right. So I probably would do that if I were Joman. I mean, the nice thing about Joman is they can raid from this water system.
Yeah. But the thing is, this is something I've learned a lot after playing them, is you can apply raiding pressure. And this is kind of incumbent on the Abyssia to find ways to deal with that raiding pressure. But once you do, Joman can't really bring a sieging army very easily from water provinces.
Right.
You'd have to see like a lot of shark warriors or water breathing items being invested in order for them to do that. And it might be at a point where that's valuable to be able to just go through the water for them without Abyssia necessarily expecting it. Like if you stack up in that forest as Joman and Abyssia can see you there, and they move into the wasteland, and you move into the lake,
Yeah.
suddenly that would be difficult for them to deal with, maybe. But
I think the core thing, though, so I think you're right. I think as a Joe, I think it's probably a little bit objectively better for Joman to go on Bogarus now rather than Abyssia. Um, but I don't think either of them is a bad move. I think Joman will probably kill Abyssia.
well, uh, how many thrones do you need to win? Out of curiosity.
I think we're 6 or something. Let's see. Yeah, 6.
If I was in the Joman position and they have just taken an Arco throne up in the northwest, I
2,
would kill Bogarus and
3,
then see if I could win immediately because Bogarus has 2 thrones
4.
in the south.
Yeah, if he gets this one, this indie throne, because he's got 1, 2,
He has a third
3.
one that has been taken back.
So he has
forth.
3.
You would need to fort that one for sure.
Right.
Both of the ones that are unforted, but I think Joman would be in potentially.
I think I'm an anomaly. I never go for these, like, I never pick wars based on thrones to win. I feel like most players do.
If Abyssia and Ulm are fighting.
To me, thrones are just 100% the technicality of, like, so that we don't actually have to play till I conquer every single province on the board. That's how I look at them. Like, I
don't know if everybody else is fighting Lucid.
Yeah.
Why not just directly win the game?
Yeah.
They might not notice.
It's true. I mean, for me, it's not as satisfying as playing with the conquer victory condition where you're not dragging the game out. But, like, conquer, and then once people are beat, you go for the thrones. But I don't know. I suppose it's technically just as good of a win if you snipe the thrones.
Yeah, it's incumbent on the other players to notice and stop you.
Yeah.
If they don't.
But yeah, you could get these 3 thrones and then win.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it is slightly questionable, especially because, like I said, Joman already has so much stuff over in the Arco area.
Yeah.
If you have all your stuff around your cap, you have all your stuff in the Arco area. Who can you attack the easiest with both of those? It would be Bogers. So
yeah, I think
that would be my thought process a little bit.
But let's take a look at research. I feel like Joman is so far ahead of Abyssian research, but I have no idea. I haven't looked at these graphs in forever. Let's just turn all these off.
They're
neck and neck.
Looks like.
Gym income, though. Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. What are the globals that Joman has again?
Just Mother Oak and Earthblood Deepwell.
Mother Oak and Earthblood.
He's just Abyssia can't really site search. It's not really their thing. Like when you write down all the things, Joman can site search like crazy. That's a Joman thing. Site searching is not really an Abyssia thing.
Yeah. Also, 30 gems in the late age is still always going to be impactful.
But I mean, look how poor. This is like what you get like goodness. 4 gems.
That's halfway in the game, and they are at like what +2.
No, Abyssia. I think when you look at it, because I think this is 4 gems that you start off with, and this line, these lines are 5. So Abyssia is at net 17 gems a turn right now across all the gem types.
And Joman is at like
70 or something.
Maybe even more than that. It's hard to tell, but they should. Yeah, so you can't see blood slaves on that. It's fair to point out you can't see the blood economy on the gem income screen. And Abyssia is one who's going to be leaning heavier into that than a lot of other nations.
Yeah.
Even who might have, like Ulm, will be using their earth gems and fire gems.
I think you're right. I think it's very objectively better for these guys to go on Joman for the reasons you pointed out. The armies are more in position to go on Bogarus. The armies are more in position to fight Bogarus. They don't have to go through this horrible starvation choke point. The other thing is that I think this actually is the biggest thing, is that you don't want balkanized states near Lemuria. While Abyssia is a scary late game threat, you don't want Lemuria neighboring a bunch of one-cap nations. It's much better to have a strong, all Lemuria's neighbors to be two-cap nations. So that's another way to think about it. Abyssia was doing that work.
I do kind of need to go real quick. Check on something.
All right. I'll keep going. Yeah. All right. Did we do all the messages? From Phalegra, just got a bunch of flagellants, so I guess my bliss won't be too useful. Also, it's a shame to lose forts, but I took out enough chariots for it to feel worthwhile. I need to amass a bigger army to feel safe taking Cetis out, though. Yeah, I'll be actually really interested to see... oh my gosh, what is this? I'll be really interested to see what Phalegra puts together to kill Cetis. This war's been going on so long. I feel like Phalegra's kind of tried to cheat. Like, they've tried to take Cetis without paying the price they need to pay. It'd be like if you go to the car dealership, right? And the car you don't want a $2,000 car, you want like a $10,000 car, right? A used car lot. But you don't bring $10,000, you bring $3,000. And you can't buy any of the cars there. But you've got like the car guy's attention a little bit. And he's like, okay, well, I guess if you stay, like if you work for the next like 6 months, we'll give the car to you, right? And you're on some like lease program or something. Like you have to, it's kind of like if you want to win a war, you need to ante up and pay, right? And the payment for winning this is you need to have Foul Vapor's protection, and you need to bring a mage corps that can do useful things, and then put a big army together and go try to kill them.
Yeah, it's kind of a resource sink at this point.
Yeah. A war that you slowly win over the course of 20 turns, you were probably better off sitting at home and researching.
Yes. There's the famous sunk cost fallacy applying.
Right. So
where if you can just get that capital, it'll all be worth it.
Right.
But it takes longer and longer for you to get that capital.
Yeah, it doesn't. Here's another way to think about it. It does not matter when you start a war. It matters when you finish it. Right? So there's a lot of times you might feel pressure in a game. Maybe somebody's nagging you about Diplo, like, hey, come and help. And maybe it's something you want to do. Like maybe you do want to help them. But you don't have the things you're going to need, the tools you're going to need to execute the war quickly. So then you have to say, well, okay, I know they want me to help them now. Right? Is it going to be better if I wait where I can end the war quickly so that maybe the war ends no matter what? Maybe it's turn 40 right now, right? And I know that no matter what, I can end the war by turn 50. But I would rather, if I can do it, start on turn 45 than start on turn 40.
Yeah, it just gives you more time to build research.
Right.
Figure out where you want to spend your gems. And that's another thing that I think gets forgotten sometimes, is that it can be more efficient to spend your gems later once you have better research.
Yeah.
For the same effect.
Right.
So you end up spending less to get the same thing done.
Right. And if you need certain tools to win effectively, you won't spend your troops' lives as well in the first 5 turns of the war than you will on the second 5 turns of the war once you have the tools.
Right. So the quicker the war, generally speaking, the more efficient.
Right.
It's not always going to be the case, but in most cases that will be true.
Yeah. And that's another good reason. Like if you're getting coalitioned or something and you punch somebody in the eye, right? You kill 100 units or something this reasonably early in the game. That's an excellent reason for them to want to sue for peace. Like, because if they're not going to get much out of it, like if it's for them, it's still going to be like a 10 or 20 turn war. In my opinion, like if I was doing that, if I attacked you, Ravzia, and like I had a buddy that was attacking you too, and you killed my main force, I know I could slowly grind you down over the next like 15 turns or something, while the other guy attacking you is going into you too. I wouldn't do that. If I might want some terms that are slightly favorable or something, right? But I would totally be like, okay, diplomacy favors me right now, but it would be a slow, grindy war. I'll just go sit in my fort and you don't have to worry about me.
Yeah.
But
I'm looking at the statist position now, and to be honest, I'm if they weren't trying to become Grippa so hard, I think they would still have a playable position. Because the one thing that's I think the most impressive, or maybe the second most impressive about the statist play this game, is aside from surviving for so long, is that their research has only just started to fall off compared to the other players.
let's take a look.
So if we look
Oh
at
my
statistics,
god.
in fact, they're still up there. They were leading for a long time because they had that awake researcher and because they got 3 or 4 forts out so early. So they're
Yeah.
ahead of Flegra still in research. So all they really need to do is stabilize and pick a good war, and they won't be far behind anybody, right?
Well, they're going to
And
be behind because they've only got 2 forts making. Oh no, they have
will
three
be behind.
forts.
They have three, but
Yeah.
example, they pick a fight with Flegra, they kick their teeth in, and then instead of going back to the cap, they go north 2 provinces. That's enough space maybe to get another fort in, and then you have 4 forts, and you can take that
Yeah.
throne, and then someone picks a bad war, and you can vulture off of them maybe, and suddenly you're back in the game, right?
Yeah. I want to be a little
So
careful though, saying it's good that they have this research because I think they
it
bought
does
this
kind of
research.
indicate,
They bought this research at the cost of putting themselves in a horrible position.
yes, they've had their mages sitting at home
Right.
instead of out using them. But I mean,
And
a
you
lot
have
of
to
the
use it. Like if you're fighting Phalegra gets so much better troops than you do. Like
do they?
you got to
I
bring
mean,
your
I guess the
mages.
Cyclops are, but aside from the Cyclops, do they really?
Yeah.
Against chariots? I'm not sure.
I mean, first of all, you have the Cyclops to stop the chariots, and you have these guys to fill in the gap with the Cyclopses. Um, if Satis had like 500 chariot stacks running around, I might be a little bit more about like, okay, maybe these human troops aren't great. But
Yeah, well, they've had opportunities. And if they take a really good fight and they can clear a lot of these troops out, then they might still have an opportunity to
I mean, here's the thing.
regain somewhat of a position. But
When this Drakon, wherever he is, casts Serpent's Blessing and they group up, um, it's going to be pretty tough. I mean, I guess he can do
Mhm.
Mass Banefire still. And we know he has Wailing Winds, so he has Banefire.
Yes, Banefire, Wailing Winds, a few, what
But,
are they called? Gifts from Heaven
yeah.
from the Pretend.
Okay,
But it's
but that's the Mage Core. That's why we're saying is that Satis probably wins if he mobilizes the Mage Core. But the troops, like Cyclops supported by these guys, will just run circles around entire army, like if it's only the Satis armies, with the slight exception that maybe the Slingers can kill these dudes.
eventually it
Right.
takes a while. But that's not what I'm talking about though.
Okay. Well,
Satis has had the opportunities to uh, retake the empty provinces that are sitting in their cap circle, as an example. Right? There's
oh,
almost no way Flegger will ever move to the province southeast of the Satis cap. So that should be safe for you to retake with.
yeah, a
There's no
mage.
PD there, in fact.
Oh yeah,
There's nothing there.
send a scout.
You can send a scout, you can send anything there, and you'll retake it. Right? And Satis hasn't been consistently checking
Right.
those. And
Yeah,
if they had, I think their position would be so much better than it is
yeah.
right now.
I think maintaining control of like the raiding war is of second priority to killing flagrant armies. So like you don't want to bleed out raiders because you're adamant on controlling your cap circle. That's something I want to be very careful about suggesting to new players. But stuff like this, which is just a total freebie because they can't get to it and there's 0 PD, you should be taking. But like,
Well, and as well, they've beaten flagrant armies, right?
right.
And then they've had some space where they could
Yeah. Right.
either beat smaller armies by splitting
Right.
pretty comfortably, or just taken free land like they have
Yeah.
available now in some spots, and
Yeah.
they haven't been doing it.
Even if they don't want to conquer Phlegra, it's like it's going to bring more to the negotiation. Because right now, Phlegra is,
Yeah,
even if
Phlegra
they
will
don't
see,
conquer Stiss, they're getting all this money from them.
yeah, if Phlegra suddenly start thinking about, okay, I need to start being able to defend my closest fort to Satis.
Right.
Suddenly they might decide, you know what, I'm not going to gain any land anyway,
Yeah.
so why not make peace
Yeah.
instead of prolonging the war? So it's definitely, I think that's an area where Satis could improve their decision making.
Yeah.
Although their defense has been pretty spectacular so far. Otherwise,
Yeah. Coming down here, nothing happening except there's a Lemurian army between Calem and their capital. I'm not going to keep harping on it, but this is a misplay keeping the army there from Calem.
yeah, and 2 points
Did we
as
watch
well.
this?
Calem can't move. No, we have not. I don't.
Calem can't move what?
Well, they can't move everything back to the cap because it's not all flying anymore.
Oh, right. And 200 Lemurian Ghost isn't that much. But the thing is, if it's supported by Grand Lemurs, you can kill off the ghosts, but the Grand Lemurs may have enough of a foothold to still win the battle. Even if all the army dies.
On your capital, it's still not.
Yeah.
We're still not seeing flaming arrows.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did they get anti-magic?
No.
And it's a shame because they should definitely have the tools to. I don't see any fire mages here actually.
Flaming arrows is actually tricky. You kind of need a crystal matrix
at least.
Yeah, anti-magic definitely.
Very. Oh, there's Scassius. Does he get sent?
Where's he? Oh yeah. Oh, yoink. He doesn't like crossbows. Like many things. Many things in the game do not like crossbows. Scassius included.
It doesn't even say he died.
It says, I think it's a different patch version or something.
Okay. Not terrible losses for Ulm, and their position looks a lot better now than it did a couple turns ago, I suppose.
Yeah. It really does. Abyssius squaring off down here. Agartha.
They have a giant stack right next to Mick.
Yeah.
I mean, if I were Agartha, it would be very tempting to just right-click down one tile and.
I think you snipe this from. Here's the thing. Ulm is gonna go. I would feel really bad. Like, okay, yeah, they could. There's all this free stuff they could take from Ulm, but Ulm's about to fight Lemuria, right? How many people are gonna attack Ulm while he's trying to fight Lemuria? Answer me that. Like this poor guy.
Say if you don't want to attack them, you could see about buying it, and you might be able to get it cheap.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is you should just, while people are attacking Lemuria, march your army over here and pick this up and get some nice water magic.
That's true. Yeah. And in fact, that would be a nice big Agartha army on one of those forts up by Lemuria itself. Would be suddenly the Lemurian position would look a lot more suspect because they would be one battle away from starting to lose their core fort.
And Lemuria does not like mass crossbow. Like 500 crossbow with flaming arrows.
Yeah, Agartha actually probably has one of the more decent matchups against them of anybody left in this.
Yeah, if you can just make enough Skelly spam so that they don't really close easily with your dudes, which is going to be a little tricky with like Rigor Mortis up and stuff. But, if you can do that, and then you have 500 crossbows. Crossbows are pretty resistant to Rigor Mortis because they don't use fatigue by shooting them, which is really strange because crossbows are super fucking exhausting to use.
Which is why it takes 2 turns to reload them.
Right, because you're sitting there cranking that thing. But, yeah.
And they might have even Well, it's hard to say, but they might have even pushed the Lemuria Dominion a little. They probably are the only person with more temples than Lemuria.
Isabella.
No, I suspect that is still Lemuria.
Yeah. Yeah,
But yeah, I don't know. I
Lemuria's...
think in this position for Magartha, and this is something we said long ago, even before they were subbed out, when you have still so many troops on the field, go use them somewhere.
Yeah.
You don't need really complicated magic to put pressure on Lemuria forts. You just need some of the basics, and I think they should, even with the low research that they do have,
Yeah.
they should still have access to enough to
Yeah. I mean,
pick that
Agartha can
fight if
do
they want.
anti-magic. Agartha can do flaming arrows. Um,
Right,
you
you
know,
might be able to buy Joman off for a long time by
yeah.
giving them nature gems for supply.
They're not gonna like they're not gonna like foul vapors, which Lemuria can do. But crossbows aren't horrible against foul vapors, right? Because heavy infantry is really bad against foul vapors because you got to slowly march your ass across the whole battlefield. Crossbows, at least you start shooting on turn 1, right?
I'll also say the Lemurian Foul Vapors caster can only be in one place at a time, and if they die,
Yeah.
they have to recall them. Oh wait, no, it's a loop. It
But
shouldn't
when
come
you're
back.
walking around with 500 crossbows, I mean, that's...
Yes, it's very tempting to Foul Vapors
Yeah.
Agarth and stacks. I have been in that position before.
Yeah.
Those are not very good because of the range.
Range, strength 5 by 2. I mean, yeah, that's probably true. As you see, actually, versus Lemuria, you actually kind of want short bows.
This is actually funny. I actually ran a test of Agarthan Cave or the Sappers
Yeah.
versus like equivalent gold of Ashigar,
And what
and it
happens?
is not close. It is not close at all.
Oh,
They
yeah.
get absolutely destroyed by the Ashigar.
That's funny. Okay. So yeah, we'll have to stay tuned to see what Agartha does, but they've got some options. They've got some options. Who's been the most aggressive player so far? I think it's Joman, right?
I can see that. Joman's really only attacked 2 people. I guess Calum has too.
So Joman, his first war was attacking Agartha. I mean, Bogarus. Then he got hit by Arco, finished them off. And now he's choosing to attack, but he's been attacked before by Abyssia, but they made peace. Now he's choosing to attack Abyssia again.
Mm.
But he's pursued his war with aggression, because that's part of it. Like, part of aggression is declaring war, right. But you can declare war and not be aggressive.
I think he's committed the most proactively to the fights he was. Besides maybe Calum, although we can.
No, Calum has lost that title now.
Yeah.
They did. This was great when they rolled it out, but
I mean, Flegret has been very aggressive in their war with Satis. They make their troops in their forts, and then they right-click them into Satis territory.
Yeah, but he's not really going after hard objectives. Like, I would say, like, an aggressive, like, what is an aggressive player to me? They're like, I'm taking your fort, and they would be like, I know what it's going to take to kill your capital. I'm going to come and hit it. Now, maybe they don't do it right away. Maybe they dance around it, but they're playing a game where this is the objective. It's hard for me to make the argument that Flegret's playing a game where this is the objective. This dance has been going on way too long.
That's true.
Too much foreplay. I think that's it for this one. Let's go through, make sure we didn't miss any battles like I did the previous time. Ooh, they've got Wraith Lords. It's kind of cool.
It's a little risky.
Yeah, they can get stolen by Lemuria.
They're just going out with nothing but commanders, it looks like.
Yeah. All right, Rabzia, closing thoughts?
I can only say that I am eagerly anticipating the epic clash between Calum and Lemuria with Baited.
Oh man, you and me both, brother.
I am very hopeful that it will happen at some point, and that Calum doesn't just take all their birds and go back to their capital because there's
Yeah, actually, on that, I think a good Lemuria hasn't been paying this. There's a huge amount of value if you can trap this army in this fort, because that gives you basically 1 turn of free initiative. So if he's not
anything
patrolling, this actually, this is actually worth talking about. It's so bad to keep a static defensive army like this. Not only is it starving, but imagine it wasn't. He either is going to have this army insufficiently patrolling, right? He's patrolling with just 10 guys to knock off like super low budget raiders, in which case it's easy to trap the army in the fort. Or he's patrolling with the whole army, but no mages because he wants the mages researching, in which case you get to take the most basic, wonderful, epic fight where you kill off all his army without his mage core.
Like he has foul vapors and he has nothing.
Right.
And
or
you kill 1,000 birds and now all his mages.
Right. And now he's got mages but no army. Or he's patrolling with the whole army and the mages. In which case, why the fuck is he standing still if he's using all the turns of the mages to just stand here and patrol? He should be taking objectives, you know?
And the same is true from the Caleb looking at the Lemuria.
Yeah.
You should be pinging that fort and asking yourself, can I block it in for a turn? And then, start putting more pressure on forts. Because if you lock down Lemuria's forts for a couple turns, they're losing
the ghost production
replenishment.
But even more, like if you start looking at this like a chessboard, if Caleb can lock this fort down for a turn, and at the same time, like if he's pinging these so he knows what kind of things Lemuria is doing for static defense.
He's doing it every turn or every other turn.
He's doing something kind of low commitment to figure out, at least to know what's here, right? If he traps this army in the fort, he can then move an army out. If he moves the army out the same turn to go on another fort, it's just free. Right? He takes it.
Crack it in one turn.
He cracks it in one turn. Lemuria logs in to see this army's trapped in here. This fort's breached. All he can do is break siege. The turn he breaks siege, they storm. Right? But it's also nice, even if you trap the army in the fort, you could move the army like here. You could go boom, boom. I don't know if it will fly that far, right? But or you could figure out how to fly it to like a faraway fort such that when he breaks out, you block his travel from this army down to wherever you're hitting, and then he can't do anything.
Right. Even if you wouldn't one turn crack it. I mean, it just gives you so many more options.
Yeah. There's just so many important options that are being left on the table.
And both armies are kind of wasted while they're keeping each other in check.
Yeah.
For Lemuria, that army isn't starving, it doesn't cost them upkeep, and they're committing relatively few mages, but the mages are more high impact.
Right.
So it's less of a commitment, I think, than it is for Caleb. And so it's looked much worse for the Caleb. This is almost the ideal way to stop the army for Lemuria, because they raid around it, they don't have to do anything, and then eventually they might be able to take a very advantageous
Right. All right. Thanks so much for joining, Ravzia. We will see everybody next time.